Hello, hello, Mr. P here, and on today's episode of Cup of Tea with Mr. P, I want to talk about something that I feel like has gotten really blurred over the years. Does it actually matter if bands have original members anymore? Okay, so this is something I've gone back and forth on with a friend of mine for more times than I can count, and it applies to both newer bands and legacy acts. I think a lot of it depends on how impactful a band was to begin with and how important certain members were to the band's identity. And I'm not talking about swapping out a guitarist or losing a drummer here and there. I mean situations where you're basically looking at an entirely different lineup, something with one original member left or none. So I sat down, thought about the bands my friend and I kept circling back to, made a short list, and figured, all right, let's talk this out. Before I do that, though, you know the drill. Come on, do me a favor, hit that like and subscribe button below. YouTube algorithm and I aren't exactly on the best terms, so something small for you genuinely helps the channel grow and actually show up in searches. So the button's down there. You know what to do. Over there. Click. Thank you, thank you. All right, first one, and I'm lumping these together because it's just kind of too easy. In 2025, there was a pretty interesting tour featuring a bunch of early 2000s radio rock heavyweights, Trapped, Edema, Tantric, and Hinder. Look it up. Now, here's the thing. Every single one of those bands is missing more than one original member. In some cases, the only original member left is the singer. For the most part, these bands are playing the same venues your biggest local bands are playing. And it's rare to see them on major festivals like Welcome to Rockville, Louder Than Life, Incarceration, or Sonic Temple. Part of me wonders if that's because people are aware of the lineup changes and subconsciously view these bands more like cover or tribute acts, which is a weird way to look at it because, come on, who exactly is out there asking for an Edema or Hinder tribute band? The Used. So this past year, they leaned heavily into album-focused tours on the self-titled debut record, In Love and Death, Lies for Liars, and honestly, I think the trend of bands celebrating classic albums, playing them front to back is actually pretty cool, especially when those albums weren't fully performed live the first time around. That said, at this point, the only original members left are vocalist Burt McCracken and bassist Jeff Howard. Venue-wise, they're still playing roughly the same rooms they always have, but the whole thing feels more nostalgia-driven than anything else. It comes off as sort of a Burt and Friends kind of situation. All right, let's talk about Seether. Now, as far as the general public is concerned, Seether is one of those bands where the lineup almost doesn't matter. You've got Sean, Dale, John, and then a revolving door of second guitars. Honestly, Seether is kind of like Spinal Tap when it comes to guitar players. You've got Nick Anus, Pat Callahan, Troy McLaughlin, Brian Wickman, Clint Lowry, and now Clint's brother, Corey Lowry. At this point, it's almost expected that the second guitarist will not last forever in this band. And here's the funny thing. No one seems to care. I think that's because as long as Sean Morgan is there writing, recording, and putting out solid songs, that's all that really matters. Sean is Seether. He's the one truly irreplaceable member of the band. Breaking Benjamin. Look, I know the band is literally named after Ben, but still, he's the only original member left. After a very local sounding debut in 2002, the band absolutely exploded with 2004's We Are Not Alone. Then things went sideways. A best of compilation was released without Ben's approval. The band was effectively dissolved in 2011, and Ben went on hiatus to deal with his health. When Breaking Benjamin returned in 2015, it was with an entirely new lineup, most notably Jason Rauch from Red as a key songwriting partner who also helped on the band's last record, Dear Agony. And yet, nobody really complains. No one's out here demanding the return of Aaron Fink, Mark Lepeski, or even the incredibly talented Chad Zeliger. So does Breaking Benjamin fall into that same faceless band category as Three Doors Down? Apparently, yeah. Okay, now here's where things get a little bit messy. Pantera. Both Abbott brothers, Dimebag Darrell and Vinnie Paul, are gone. So Phil and Rex brought in Charlie Benante on drums from Anthrax and guitar god Zakk Wylde. For years, everyone said Zakk was the only guy who could do it. But once it actually happened, massive backlash. You constantly see and hear the phrase, no dime, no Pantera. What's interesting is that people seemed fine with Charlie stepping into Vinny's role, but far less accepting of Zakk filling in Dime's spot, which makes me wonder, why is it okay for one legend to be replaced by another? Zakk Wylde is more than capable of honoring Pantera's music, so why the resistance? Now shifting gears to a different Zach Myers of Shinedown. Zach originally joined as a touring second guitarist during the Us and Them cycle, playing alongside original guitarist Jason Todd. After bassist Brad Stewart left, Zach switched to bass. Then the Sound of Madness happened. Literally. Jason was out. Zach moved the guitar, Nick Perry joined briefly, and then suddenly Shinedown went from 1,200-seat rooms to full-blown arenas. Perry eventually left, and the band returned to being a single guitar setup. Because the band hadn't completely exploded yet, there wasn't much fan backlash over Jason being gone. And now, after 4 albums with Zach on them and a drastically different sound, it's pretty clear that Zach has had a bigger impact on modern Shinedown than anyone else has. Which brings me to Alice in Chains. Even before Alice in Chains' reunion, fans were already saying things like, "No Lane, no AIC." When the band returned in 2006 with William Duvall, the reaction to his live performances was undeniable. If you haven't seen their 2006 Rock and Ring performance, especially Junkhead, go watch it. Duvall just earns his place. Still, some fans refuse to accept it. The band pushed forward, releasing Black Gives Way to Blue, The Devil Put Dinosaurs Here, and Rain Your Fog. And they're now touring to some of the largest audiences of their career. Finally, Saliva. So this is what my friend and I talk about quite a bit. Saliva is basically the Lynyrd Skynyrd model, touring under the name with 0 original members. Ironically, the most famous member is bassist Brad Stewart from Shinedown. Meanwhile, original vocalist Josie Scott tours with no original Saliva members, but he's playing sub-500 capacity venues. The version of Saliva that owns the name, they're the ones getting festival slots. Makes no sense to me. Bands with 1 original member, bands with none, bands playing musical chairs with lineups. It's all kind of insane when you really think about it. So, is there a band I should have mentioned? Drop a comment below. I genuinely like to get a conversation going on this one. And while you're down there, hit that like and subscribe button to keep up with my Tone Match videos, RD videos, and the rant series you're currently watching right now. On that note, I'm Mr. Pan. I'll be seeing you soon.